Namaskar. Good morning. So the truth is, I had so many presentations, and I wasn't sure what you all wanted to hear today. But as the first resident High Commissioner in India, my job is very clear. My main objective is to generate awareness about Jamaica. Everybody knows in India about the West Indies, thankfully. That's something we share in common. However, if you look at a map, you will not find West Indies. And initially, I didn't like the name West Indies because it glorified a gross navigational error of one Christopher Columbus, who thought he had reached India. Now that I'm in India, I like it because it brings us closer together. However, at the time, I thought we shouldn't glorify this man. And of course, he would go on to lay claim to having discovered Americas. But if you're lost on a beach in Jamaica, I'm sorry, we discovered you. So that's our claim to fame. So I'm going to talk to you this morning a little bit about Jamaica. I'm going to share with you some very interesting facts about my country, simply because there's so little known about Jamaica here, and I want to spread as much awareness as possible. Another part of my role is to promote Jamaica as a destination. You should know that there is no visa requirement for holders of Indian passports. And of course, Jamaica is a very mature tourism destination with a very unique appeal. There are not many places like Jamaica, such a small country with such a diversity of experience. In a mere 7 kilometers from the beach to the mountains, you can drive through 4 distinct micro-ecosystems, going from being hot and cozy on the beach to needing a sweater up in the hills. It's also a destination for investment. Jamaica has a very unique value proposition because of its strategic geographic positioning. That same geographic positioning that sort of pulled Christopher Columbus like a magnet to our shores is because Jamaica is right in the crossroads of north-south and east-west shipping lanes. And of course, its proximity to the US and Canada, as well as South America and Central America, make it very central. And this strategic geographic positioning, along with its well-developed infrastructure, and by infrastructure I'm talking about physical infrastructure, as well as digital infrastructure, and of course, human resource. Jamaica is one of those countries that has a uniquely business-enabling environment. It is completely investor-friendly. A third vertical, if you will, is the need to promote trade and the export of Jamaican products. And Jamaica is most famous for its premium rum, which dates back to the 1600s. It's the oldest and finest rum in the Caribbean. Coffee, Blue Mountain coffee. I mentioned the hills. Up in the hills, you find a microclimate like no other, which imparts on the coffee a very unique flavor. So Jamaica Blue Mountain coffee is one of the rarest and most sought-after coffees. There's something about living on an island. It's a Darwinian principle, if you will, because throughout time, you have a genetic refinement of everything that's on there. One of the first things you'll notice when you come to Jamaica, eat a banana. You've never tasted a banana that tasted like that, I'm sorry. Or even the coconuts. Everything tastes different in Jamaica, and that's a function of that abundance of water, abundance of sunshine, and abundance of rich, fertile volcanic soil. I recall once being on an American talk show, and on the show, in my former capacity as director of tourism, they asked me, when is the best time to visit Jamaica? And I said, it's sunny all year round. You can come anytime. And the gentleman on the show had a particular adversarial stance. And he said to me, he says, well, you know, I need my seasons. I need to have different seasons. So I said to him, how many seasons do you have? And of course, he thought I was stupid for asking him this. And he said, you know, spring, summer, autumn, winter. I said, that's 4. He says, yes. I said, in Jamaica, we have 24 seasons. He's like, but you just said it's sunny all year round. I said, no. You have apple season, guinea season, mango season, cherry season. And that's the beauty of life in the tropics. The 4th vertical of my role here is to facilitate meaningful exchanges in culture and sport, and of course academics. And all of this is done while building and strengthening the bilateral relationship between our 2 great nations. So it's all about G to G, government to government, B to B, business to business, and something that I hold dearly, which I like to call H to H, which is heart to heart, because at the end of the day, it's those bonds that you create. And that's what Jamaica is all about. It's a warm, welcoming, all-encompassing destination. Our motto is out of many, one people. That's to say that in Jamaica you will find people of African heritage, European heritage, Chinese, and Indian. Indians came to Jamaica in 1740. That's quite some time ago, and they form a part of our landscape, a part of our culture, our food. Our very food has very strong Indian notes to it, the spice, the curry. Now, in India, I am also accredited to Singapore, Malaysia, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Nepal. So, needless to say, it's a 24/7 undertaking, tremendously demanding, but it's a great honor to do so, and I'm very happy to be here with you this morning, to be afforded this opportunity to talk about Jamaica. So if you take a look at this slide, I'm not going to do a full presentation. I think it might be too boring for you. But this slide encompasses a small exercise, a fun exercise. So I have 2 young sons. They're 9 years old, they're twins. And we like to play a game, person, place, animal, thing. And you go through you say start, and in your mind you go A, B, C, D. This stops at B. So if you think you know Jamaica, you have Bolt, Usain Bolt, the fastest man in the world. You also have the fastest woman, the fastest mother, the fastest boy, the fastest girl, the fastest child. I'm sure if toddlers could run, you'd have the fastest toddler too. But in that B, you have Bolt, Blake, Bob, Belafonte, Belafonte's Banana Boat, Blue Mountain Coffee, Beach. James Bond was born in Jamaica. I bet you none of you didn't realize that although he's a fictional character, the author of the series came up with James Bond on a beach in Jamaica. We're also famous for boxing. Jamaica has the record of having the highest number of multiple live births, a statistic which I personally contribute to, as we have twins. It's also the best honeymoon destination, the best cruise port, the best all-inclusive hotel, best attractions, best tourist board, best luxury resort. It truly is a phenomenon. Few countries in the world pack such a confounding diversity of superlative, if not audacious, global distinctions in such a relatively small space. Jamaica has a population of 2.7 million people. Now, to put this in context, having had the fastest man and the fastest woman, this is not a recent phenomenon. Jamaica has won over 1/3 of the total medals to be won in the sprint events in international competition. So between the Olympics and the World Championships, the only country to have won more medals than Jamaica is the USA. and they have a population of 300 million, whereas Jamaica has a population of 2.7 million. This is a unique achievement, and it is testament to us as a people. I'm often asked, why do Jamaicans run so fast? It's actually another lecture series which I invite you to attend. But it's a fascinating treatise because it's a function of genetics, it's a function of culture, and it's a function of the way we do things. Jamaica is born out of great struggle, slavery, colonialism, hardship. But throughout it all, we decided to get up and to stand up for our rights. And it is that fight and that indomitable spirit that we take to competition, and that's why we do so well. And our legacy of excellence in sport obviously goes through cricket, swimming, football, boxing, rugby, and even bobsled. Jamaica is the first tropical country to field a team in the Winter Olympics. No snow, no problem. Jamaica is also the most musical country in the world. Many of you would know about reggae music, but Jamaica is the most musical country because in terms of per capita output, you will have the most singers, musicians, engineers, writers, recording artists, studio engineers, musicians per capita than any other country. And this cultural impact through our music has produced over 14 genres of music, which is quite fascinating when you think about it. Reggae is not counted among those 14 because reggae music is a social movement. And I'm not talking about the way people dance, though that is also a phenomenon. It's a social movement because it is a music that gives voice to the oppressed, to the marginalized, to the victimized. It's the voice that calls for equality and justice. The great Nelson Mandela once told me that it was the music of Bob Marley, Jimmy Cliff, Peter Tosh that sustained him throughout his 27 years of incarceration in prison. So those are some interesting and random facts about Jamaica, but in terms of business, which is one of the verticals I spoke of, Jamaica ranks the highest in the region in terms of ease of doing business. It's one of the easiest countries to come to and set up business. And I mentioned the business environment. The Jamaica Stock Exchange in 2015 and 2018 was the #1 ranked stock exchange in the world based on performance. And that performance it produced a 236% rally. Just think about that for a second, 236%. The #2 stock exchange was Vietnam, and they were 76. So these are serious attributes that make Jamaica a very compelling destination for investment. If you think about some of the sectors where investment is particularly successful in Jamaica, the leading sector would be BPO, business process outsourcing and digital service. Jamaica is an excellent nearshore destination to the US and Canada with a skilled labor force that boasts native English proficiency and of course a cultural affinity. So all of these call center type operations, one of the things they really like is, you know, you've bought a product, you have a problem with the product, and you call the 1-800 number, and you're frustrated, and on the other end of the line, you hear somebody say, "How can I help you?" And it just calms them down. It's that cultural affinity and that smoothness with which Jamaicans do things. Tourism, I mentioned tourism earlier. There are about 5 million tourists calling Jamaica from around the world. And these are brought to our shores by approximately 400 international flights weekly, calling at 3 international airports. Cruise shipping is also very huge, and we have 5 cruise ports. Now just think again, this small island, which is probably the same size as the state of Tripura, with 5 cruise ports. That's a major achievement. And of course, these cruise ports are all award-winning destinations. One of them is located in Port Royal. You may have heard of Port Royal from Pirates of the Caribbean. And back in the 1600s, 1500s, the Port Royal in Kingston was actually the commercial capital of the Western Hemisphere. It was where the largest amount of wealth resided, mainly because of the piracy that was taking place. At the time, it wasn't referred to as piracy, it was called privateering. But this again is testament to that strategic geographic positioning. Other sectors include logistics. Given that strategic positioning, the port of Kingston is the #1 transshipment port in the Caribbean, catering to post-Panamax vessels with a capacity of about 2.8 million TEUs, 20-foot equivalent units. And those see approximately 100 vessels a week coming in from all over the world. There's also mining. At one stage, Jamaica was the leading exporter of bauxite. It's now not the #1, but we still produce about 17 million metric tons of bauxite per annum. There's limestone, some of the purest grade limestone, which is used in pharmaceuticals and other cosmetics, toothpaste. That's about 50 billion tons in terms of reserves, as well as other aggregates and non-metallic minerals. And at one stage, they actually found gold in Jamaica, but that hasn't been a very large business. There's also energy, wind, solar, hydro, and of course waste energy. Solar is particularly important because Jamaica is a member of the International Solar Alliance, which is headquartered here. And because of the solarization, the exposure to the sun that we have, it's a very huge prospect. And of course, we're looking at creating floating solar panels and one network, one grid for the entire region. Agriculture, I mentioned the unique quality of fruits and nutraceuticals. One of the reasons why Jamaica runs so fast is because of our diet. We eat some of the highest grade food produced on our shores. I don't know if you have it here in India, but we eat a tuber called yam. And yam is a low glycemic food. So rice is high glycemic, and you eat rice. When you burn that into energy, it burns very quickly. But if you eat a low glycemic food, the burn is sustained. So by eating yam, we're able to train for longer periods. There's also film and animation. The first Bond movie was actually filmed in Jamaica, and the most recent Bond movie was also filmed in Jamaica. So when you watch these movies, you get a sense of how compelling and alluring Jamaica is as a destination. So I won't go on because sometimes it sounds as if I'm boasting, but realistically, I just wanted to share with you that snapshot of what Jamaica is. Too often, not many people know about that part of the world. We're overshadowed by the USA simply because that's what people tend to know. But when you really think about Jamaica's combined musical output, sporting achievement, we are a global superpower of culture. And that itself lends it as a brand that people have recall and renown. And it's this leadership quality, these unique attributes that draw brands to us in various sectors to align and affiliate with a winner. Jamaica is obviously uniquely poised as a gateway for Indian innovation to the region. It's as good a destination as any, being able to access North, South, and Central America. Given that India has been a part of Jamaica's history and development for almost 2 centuries, there's still yet much untapped potential. So I hope many of you here who are on the cusp of innovation will start to look further afield and maybe even venture out to Jamaica. The truth is, My telling you here is not sufficient. Seeing those pictures there is not sufficient. You have to go for yourself. It's something that is remarkable from the standpoint that that diversity will cater to every taste, whether you're seeking culture, whether you're seeking spirituality, gastronomy, sport, rest and rejuvenation, even heritage. Jamaica is a place for you. An interesting thing that I didn't mention about Jamaica in the gastronomy is that you have veg and non-veg, but in the veg category originates a cuisine from the Rastafari religious grouping. Now, Rastafari is the only religion to be born in the 20th century, and it is affiliated with the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, which is the oldest form of Christianity, but it is a religion that was founded in Jamaica, and they borrow attributes from Sikhism in that they don't cut their hair, or sadhus, they wear locks. They don't eat meat, they don't eat salt, they don't drink alcohol. They partake in a particular Indian flower, which I believe is illegal here still, but we've decriminalized it. I refer to ganja. But ganja, of course, has several medicinal attributes. And this group of Rastafari have created a cuisine that is truly unique and something that you must experience in addition to all the other culinary attributes of Jamaica. Again, there's no visa requirement, and with over 400 flights weekly, it's very easy to get to. We don't have a direct flight from India yet. It would take, if you were to fly directly from India to Jamaica, it would take 19 hours, which is outside of the radius of the maximum flight of 18 hours. So you would have to transit either the US, Panama, or any port in Europe. Jamaica is well connected. And of course, as I said earlier, there's no visa requirement. In fact, all you need to do is just rock up. So, in the words of the late, great Robert Nesta Marley, Bob Marley, I'm going to leave you with the statement of one love, one heart. Let's get together and feel all right. Come to Jamaica and feel all right. Thank you.